I flew in to surprise my fiancée. She told me to wait at her place while she picked up study notes. Took my car. An hour later, the GPS showed it parked outside my roommate's place. I didn't call. I started packing. And the next day, I wake up into 51 missed calls and text. Hey, Reddit. So I did that thing they always tell you not to do in a long-distance relationship. Showed up unannounced for a surprise visit. Turns out those warnings exist for a reason, just not the one everyone thinks. I'm sure plenty of you will call bullshit. But honestly, I don't even care. Sometimes reality is wilder than fiction, and my last 6 months have been a masterclass in what the actual duck. So I, 28 male, was engaged to my fiancée Tati, 26 female, for about a year and a half. Been together for 4 years total. Back then, being with her felt like I was finally doing something right in my life. She was my first thought in the morning and last before sleep. After graduation, she got into med school in NYC, while I landed a job at a tech startup in Boston. Yeah, long distance sucked, but we had a system. I'd visit one weekend a month, she'd come up when her schedule allowed, which wasn't often because med school is basically educational waterboarding, and we'd text constantly in between. The plan was to power through until she finished school, then figure out where to settle down together. Now here's the thing. I basically bankrolled her entire NYC life, her fancy Manhattan apartment, $3,200 a month because apparently just existing in New York costs a premium. Utilities, groceries, even pitched in for tuition gaps the loans didn't cover. My thinking made sense to me then. She was building our future in med school, becoming a doctor, and I was investing in us as a team. I had this rock-solid trust in her too. When your fiancé is supposedly grinding through 16-hour study days and literally falling asleep during our calls, you just don't imagine she's got the time or energy for anything else, you know? Then there's my roommate Vince, 28 male. We'd been splitting a decent two-bedroom in Boston for about 2 years, sharing expenses 50-50. He worked in medical device sales, so we'd often get into these long conversations about healthcare stuff, and he always seemed super interested in hearing about Tati and her med school journey. Oh, and this detail matters. During my last NYC visit about 6 months ago, I left my Audi A4 in her building's garage since airport parking in Boston is highway robbery. Tati was like, just leave it here. I can use it for groceries sometimes, and it'll be here waiting when you visit next. Made perfect sense at the time. Fast forward to 3 months ago. We hadn't seen each other in person since that last visit because she was drowning in rotations and exams, while I was debugging some nightmare code for a major client. The texts were getting shorter, the calls less frequent, but I chalked it up to normal long-distance fatigue. So I decided to plan this epic surprise visit. Took Friday through Tuesday off work, booked reservations at some fancy-ass restaurants that normally have 3-month waiting lists. Thank you, generous tipping of maitre d's. Got tickets to this Broadway show she'd been talking about forever. Even planned a day trip to this winery upstate. I was gonna be boyfriend of the year. I flew in Thursday night. Didn't tell her I was coming. In my head, she'd open the door, scream with joy, jump into my arms. You know, standard rom-com reunion shit. Instead, when she opened the door, her face did this weird thing where it started with shock, moved briefly through what looked like panic, then settled on a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. Jared, what are you doing here? Her voice was pitched too high, like she was overcompensating. Surprise! I grinned, completely missing the red flags that in retrospect were basically Soviet military parade-sized. Thought I'd drop in for a long weekend. She hugged me, but it was one of those stiff hugs where you can feel the other person's body language screaming, I don't want this. Again, I ignored it because what else can I do? I walked in, dropped my bag, and started excitedly explaining the itinerary I'd put together. So tomorrow night we have reservations at that Italian place you were talking about. Saturday we have the Broadway show. Sunday I thought we could drive up to... Oh, she interrupted, doing that thing where she tucks her hair behind her ear when she's uncomfortable. That's so sweet, but I actually have rounds tomorrow morning and this huge exam on Monday I need to study for. Not gonna lie, that stung. I'd spent weeks planning this shit, dropped almost $2,000 non-refundable on tickets and reservations, and she's basically saying thanks but no thanks without even trying to make it work. But again, med school is brutal, so I nodded understandingly like the pushover I was. No problem, we can play it by ear. Maybe just dinner tomorrow night after your rounds? She nodded vaguely, eyes already darting to her phone which had just buzzed. That night was weird as hell. She barely talked during the takeout dinner I ordered, kept checking her phone every 5 minutes with this little smile she'd immediately suppress when she noticed me watching, and went to bed early claiming exhaustion. I stayed up watching Netflix on the couch, wondering why this reunion felt so off, but convincing myself it was just the surprise factor and her stress. If I'd been smart, I would have opened her iPad right then, but nope. Respect for privacy and all that nonsense kept me from snooping. Principals are nice until they make you the last to know you're being played. The next morning, she was rushing around getting ready, hair still wet from the shower, throwing books into her bag. So I should be done with rounds by 4, but then I need to pick up some study materials from a classmate, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. Can I use your car? The subway to her place takes forever. Sure, I said. She grabbed them, gave me a quick peck on the lips, not even a real kiss, just that dry-ass formality peck you'd give your great aunt, and headed for the door. I might be late, so don't wait on dinner for me, okay? She called over her shoulder. Love you! The door closed before I could even respond. Standing there in her empty apartment, I had that feeling in my gut. You know the one, when your body figures shit out before your brain does. So I'm sitting there in her apartment, bored out of my skull because all my carefully planned activities involved, actually being with my fiancé. I catch up on work emails, order lunch from this overpriced salad place nearby, and try to convince myself this is fine. Around 1 p.m., my phone buzzes. It's Vince, my roommate from Boston. Yo, how's Boston treating you? Weather's been insane here in NYC. I stared at the text, confused. Vince knows I'm in NYC. I literally told him my plans the day before I left, even asked him to water my sad excuse for a houseplant while I was gone. I text back, I'm in NYC visiting Tati, remember? What are you doing in NYC? 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. Finally, oh shit, my bad. Thought you were heading out tomorrow? I'm here for a training thing with the medical device company. Totally forgot to mention it. Now, I'm not usually a suspicious guy, but something felt off. Vince and I lived together, talked pretty much daily, and he forgot to mention he'd be in the same city as my fiancé. During the exact same weekend I was visiting, something was wired. Then something clicked in my brain. About a month ago, I'd gotten an alert from my car's manufacturer app about a software update. I'd set it up originally to track maintenance schedules, but remembered it had that built-in GPS feature I never used. Something made me curious. Maybe it was Vince's weird text or Tati's strange behavior. But whatever it was, I opened the app. And what do you know? My Audi is parked at the exact same address in Brooklyn where Vince's location was showing. My heart starts doing this weird fluttery thing. Could be a coincidence, right? New York City is huge, but not that huge. People end up in the same neighborhoods all the time. I pull up the GPS history on the app, and my stomach drops. For the past 3 months, my car has been making regular trips to Brooklyn, always on nights when Tati claimed to be at the library or in study group. There's also a pattern of hotel stops, Four Seasons, W Hotel, even a Hampton Inn out by JFK. What med student has time for hotel hopping? My car's been getting more action than I have, apparently. But then I start connecting dots I should have seen months ago. I'm pacing around her apartment, running my hands through my hair, feeling like I'm losing my mind. Wait, Tati had been busy more often lately, always rescheduling our video calls last minute. Sorry, babe, study group ran late, or lab work took forever. And Vince? Dude had been traveling constantly for work training, always super vague about where exactly. East Coast territory stuff was all he'd say. And shit, last month Tati mentioned helping a friend study, but got all weird when I asked who. Changed the subject real quick. Plus, Vince had been asking me all these questions about Tati's med school experience lately. Said it was for his medical device sales training. But now I'm wondering if he was just gathering intel. But the thing that messed the most with my brain? When I mentioned my surprise trip to Vince earlier this week, he got weirdly interested in exactly when I was arriving. Thursday night or Friday morning? He'd asked, like it actually mattered to him. I stop pacing and stare out her window at the city below. Still, coincidences happen, right? I'm not trying to go full conspiracy theorist here. I need more proof before I let my mind go there completely. I remember our shared Netflix account, technically my parents' account that we all mooch off of. I log in and check the viewing activity. There's a whole bunch of shows being watched in NYC on weeknights when Tati claimed to be at the library studying. Shows neither of us had ever mentioned watching together. Still not hard evidence, but the smoke is getting thicker. Then I spot Tati's iPad, still on the coffee table. We've always known each other's passcodes, or at least I thought we did. Turns out she'd changed her phone's code recently. Red flag I'd ignored, but her iPad still had the old one. Now, pro tip, don't leave your partner alone in your apartment, especially when they haven't seen you in a while and you're acting weird, because they will mess with your stuff. At least I did. And honestly, zero regrets about it. Anyways, I open the iPad and go straight to messages. And there it is. Hundreds of texts between her and Vince going back 4 freaking months. Hearts, inside jokes, pet names, plans to meet up, nudes that will forever be seared into my brain. The whole works. Some choice excerpts. Tati, can't wait to see you tomorrow. Jay thinks I'm at rounds all day. Vince, use his car again, it's perfect. The irony kills me, lol. Tati, I know, right? Bonnie's covering for me if he asks about study group. My freaking car. My freaking roommate. My fudging fiancé. I scroll through the messages, feeling like I'm having an out-of-body experience. They've been seeing each other since that last time I visited NYC, when I left my car. They'd been hooking up at least twice a week, and they were laughing about using my car for their little rendezvous. Like it was some hilarious inside joke that the clueless boyfriend was bankrolling their affair with his own vehicle. There are messages about how they'd use my car to drive to hotels, messages planning for when I'd be on work calls so they could talk, messages about how Jay is so trusting it's almost too easy. What really guts me is the financial shit. There's a text from Toddy to Vince. Jay just sent another $2,000 for books LOL. Dinner at Del Posto tonight? My hard-earned money, 60-hour work weeks debugging code until my eyes bled, was funding their goddamn date nights. I'm literally paying for my roommate to wine and dine my fiancé while I eat ramen alone in Boston. The absolute disrespect of it all hits different. This isn't just cheating. It's theft. And then there's our mutual friend, the one called Bonnie, apparently the designated cover story provider. If he asks, we were at the library all night studying for boards. Tell him I was with you at that review session. I put the iPad down, hands actually shaking. Calm clarity comes over me. This isn't salvageable. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is a calculated betrayal by two people I trusted completely. I settled into the couch, hands a little shaky. I took screenshots of everything I found, page after page of texts. The detailed plans for their meetups. The inside jokes about me being clueless. Even the shitty jokes they made at my expense about using my car for their hookups. There's this weird calm that comes over you when you discover something so awful, like your brain just goes into pure survival mode. I email all these screenshots to myself, then to a second email account as backup. Can't be too careful. I carefully delete the screenshots from the recently deleted folder, wipe away my digital fingerprints, and place the iPad back exactly where I found it. But I needed more. Screenshots are solid, but I want to catch her in an active lie. Something happening right now. I grab my phone and text Bonnie. Hey, Toddy mentioned you guys had a study group tonight? What time is she supposed to be there? I stared at my phone, watching those 3 dots bounce as she types. Bonnie responds almost immediately. Yeah, big review session for Monday's exam. She should be there around 7. We'll probably be at it all night. I read her response 5 times, my suspicions crystallizing into certainty. The lie is so smooth, so practiced. She didn't hesitate, didn't question why I was asking. They've done this before. I don't respond. I check the car tracking app again. My car is now parked back at a hotel in Manhattan, so that's their little spot. I almost laugh at how brazen they're being. I sit there for a while, scrolling back through months of messages, piecing together their routine. They've been meeting up whenever I had scheduled calls at work, whenever she claimed to be at the library, whenever Vince said he was out of town. They had a whole system. For a moment, I consider calling her right now, busting this wide open. But something stops me. The calculated nature of their betrayal deserves an equally calculated response. I need to see exactly how deep this rabbit hole goes. No dramatic confrontation, no angry texts, nothing to tip them off. I want to watch them lie to my face, gather all the evidence, and then make my move when they least expect it. I put my phone away and take a deep breath. Time to see what kind of performance Toddy puts on when she gets home. Toddy comes home around 6 p.m., looking slightly flushed and carrying a stack of medical textbooks that I'm 100% certain she picked up from her own bookshelf before coming upstairs. Hey babe, she says, leaning in for another one of those meaningless pecks. Sorry that took so long. Maria had the materials at her boyfriend's place, and we ended up discussing the exam for hours. I nodded, face neutral. How were the rounds this morning? She launches into this elaborate story about some difficult patient case, throwing in medical terminology left and right, probably assuming I wouldn't follow the details. I just sit there, watching her lie to my face with such practiced ease. It's almost impressive in a sociopathic sort of way. So, I say, when she finally winds down, dinner? I thought maybe we could still hit that Italian place if you're up for it. She looks at her watch and frowns. Actually, I told Bonnie I'd meet her and some classmates at the library around 7. This exam is killer and I really need to study. Maybe tomorrow night? Bonnie, huh? I keep my tone casual. That's cool. Maybe I could come with you. Just hang out nearby. I brought my laptop. I could get some work done. The look on her face. Pure panic for a split second before she composes herself. The med library is students only after hours, she says quickly. Super strict policy. Besides, we'll just be boring you with all our medical talk. You can wait for me in here. We will hang out later, I promise. Yeah, because I came all this way across state lines just to chill in her apartment like an Airbnb guest with no Wi-Fi. I nodded. No problem. Have fun studying. She tosses her keys on the counter like she's clocking out of a shift and says, help yourself to anything you want, there's food in the fridge. I remember sitting there after she left, in silence. In New York City, one of the most alive places on earth, and I felt more alone than I ever had. Even my heart felt cold. I really was missing her and wanting to spend time with her. I mean, she's my fiancée. Last thing I expected was to find her hooking up with my roommate in my car. Rage started building up, and as soon as she left, I sat down at the kitchen table and started planning my exit strategy with military precision. First call went to my boss. Hey, Mark, something's come up with the family. I'm going to need a few more days in New York. He was cool about it, told me to take whatever time I needed. Next, I jumped online and secured a storage unit in Manhattan. Not cheap, but I needed somewhere to put my stuff while I figured out next steps. Third call was to a moving company, and man, the price for next day service was highway robbery. But whatever, worth every penny to get this done fast. I logged into our bank accounts and froze the joint checking we used for shared expenses. Watching that balance, mostly my contributions, sitting there untouchable gave me this weird satisfaction. Then I opened a fresh account under just my name and transferred my personal savings over. While the banking site was open, I downloaded all our transaction history, more evidence of everything I'd paid for. I spent the next hour walking around the apartment with my phone, taking pictures and making notes. Mine, Heron bought together. The exercise was weirdly calming, reducing 4 years together to a simple inventory of possessions. Last step, booked a hotel downtown for the next few nights. Nothing fancy, just somewhere to crash, while I executed the plan. By the time I finished, the rage had transformed into this icy determination. This wasn't about getting even anymore. This was about getting out with my dignity intact. How was studying with Vince? I asked calmly, as she walks in the door, my voice flat as Nebraska. She freezes, keys still in hand. What? I was at the library. With Bonnie. You can literally text her. That's interesting, I say, scrolling through my phone like I'm bored, because my car's GPS shows it was parked outside Vince's place in Brooklyn all day. Then at the Four Seasons for like 2 hours. Wild coincidence, huh? Her face goes through this fascinating series of expressions: shock, fear, anger, calculation, before settling on mega bitch mode. Wait a second, you're tracking me? She screams, going from 0 to Karen in 0.5 seconds. That's psycho behavior. This is exactly why I've been so stressed lately. You don't trust me, you've always been jealous and insecure, and now you're literally stalking me? I almost had to laugh. Homegirl was throwing everything at the wall hoping something would stick. I track my car, Tati, I reply, cool as the other side of the pillow. The car I'm still making payments on. The one with my name on the title. The car you've been using as a duck mobile with my roommate. She's shaking her head like she's at a metal concert. This is actually insane. You've lost it. Vince is in Boston. I've been studying my ass off for this exam while you're making up some weird fantasy. I pull out my phone and start scrolling through the screenshots. So, these texts between you and Vince about using my car to meet up? That's what? Performance art? Her eyes go wide for a split second before narrowing. You went through my private messages? That's literally illegal? Really? So you weren't at the Four Seasons yesterday charging room service to the credit card I pay for? She blinks rapidly, recalculating. Then, like flipping a switch, the waterworks start. Not just regular crying. This is professional-grade sobbing. Oscar-worthy shit. It was a mistake, she wails, shoulders heaving dramatically. I was so lonely and stressed with school, and you're always so far away focused on your job. I felt abandoned. Don't you understand what the pressure of med school does to a person? I just stare at her, fascinated by the performance. Save it for your acting class. I've already booked a hotel for tonight. I'll be getting my car and my stuff tomorrow. Her tears dry up instantly. You're leaving me? She looks genuinely shocked, like this outcome never even occurred to her. After everything I've sacrificed for us? For our future? I actually laughed this time. What exactly have you sacrificed, Tati? I pay your $3,200 rent, your tuition gaps, your utilities, your groceries, your effing laundry service. I'm basically your sugar daddy without any of the benefits, and you thank me by screwing my roommate in my car. It was one time, he's the one who led me, she cries, voice cracking perfectly. I made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. The texts go back 4 months, I reply, wondering if this chick thinks I can't read timestamps. And you've been using Bonnie as your cover story this whole time. You two had a whole system going. She tries everything in the manipulator's handbook. More crying, then anger. You were emotionally unavailable, then blame shifting. If you had visited more often, this wouldn't have happened. At one point, she actually slides up next to me, pressing her body against mine and whispering that we could work through this. I step back. Don't. When nothing works, her eyes go cold. If you leave me, I'll tell everyone you were abusive. I'll tell the school you threatened me. I'll make sure everyone in your company knows what kind of man you really are. I'll ruin you, Jared. I just smile and hold up my phone. Still recording. Want to try that thread again for the camera? The color drains from her face as she realizes I've been recording this entire conversation. She collapses onto the couch, finally defeated. What do you want from me? She asks, suddenly small. Nothing, I say, feeling like I just dropped a 200-pound backpack. I don't want a single effing thing from you ever again. I grab my overnight bag and head for the door. No one will ever love you like I do, she shouts desperately as I'm walking out. You'll never find anyone better than me. Thank God for that, I replied, closing the door behind me. Monday morning, I show up with the movers right at 9 a.m. Tati is gone, probably at her actual exam, or maybe with Vince, who knows. I don't care anymore. I took what's undeniably mine. Clothes, electronics, personal items, a few pieces of furniture I brought from Boston. I leave all the jointly purchased stuff, the expensive couch, the dining set, the kitchenware. Not worth the hassle or the connection to her. By noon, my stuff is in storage, and I'm sitting in a cafe planning my next move when I get a call from a number I don't recognize. Hello, is this Jared? This is Elena, Tati's mother. Great, just what I need. I brace myself for accusations and anger. Yes, this is Jared. I understand you and Tatiana have had difficulties. She's been telling us some concerning things. I'm sure she has, I reply neutrally. But I doubt they're accurate. Elena sighs heavily. That's what I suspected. Jared, this isn't the first time Tatiana has created stories about her relationships. May I ask what actually happened, from your perspective? I give her the Cliff Notes version, keeping it factual and unemotional. Tati had been cheating with my roommate for months, using my car to meet him, and had a mutual friend covering for her. There's a long pause on the other end of the line. I was afraid of this. Her father and we've seen this pattern before. In high school, with her first serious boyfriend in college, we had hoped with therapy and medication. Therapy and medication? I repeat, confused. For what? Tatiana was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder 3 years ago. She was doing well with treatment for a while, but I suspect she may have stopped taking her medication when she moved to New York. Did she ever mention any of this to you? In 4 years together, through countless conversations about our future, our health, our everything, not once had she mentioned a BPD diagnosis. No, I say. She didn't. Elena sighs again. I'm so sorry, Jared. This doesn't excuse her behavior, but I want you to know this isn't entirely about you. Tatiana struggles with abandonment issues and impulse control. When she feels a relationship might be threatened, like with your long-distance situation, she sometimes acts out preventatively. By cheating with my roommate in my car? I can't keep the edge out of my voice. She paused a little then. As I said, it doesn't excuse anything. But yes, in her mind, hurting you before you could hurt her makes a twisted kind of sense. We talk for about an hour. Elena fills me in on Tati's history of similar behavior. The lying, the cheating, the manipulation. Apparently, this was far from the first time, though perhaps the most elaborate. What happens now? I ask, more out of curiosity than anything else. Her father is flying to New York tonight. We're going to have her come stay with us in Chicago for a while. Get her back into intensive therapy. Beyond that, I don't know. Before we hang up, Elena says something that sticks with me. You know, all her previous boyfriends tried to fix her, or stayed out of guilt after learning about her diagnosis. You're the first one who simply walked away. That's actually the healthiest response. For both of you. After the call, I feel a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't about me. Never had been. I was just a prop in Tati's internal drama. The reliable provider, the safety net, the emotional punching bag. I send Vince one text. Apartment's all yours now. I'll have my name removed from the lease this week. Hope she was worth it. He reads it, but never replies. Coward. But that's not where things ended with Vince. 2 days after the blow-up with Tati, I'm in the lobby of my hotel in Midtown Manhattan, grabbing my last few things before catching my flight out of NYC. That's when I spot a familiar face hovering near the entrance. Vince, looking like absolute shit, pacing around with this nervous energy. Jared? He calls out when he sees me. We need to talk, man. I walk right past him toward the elevator. Nothing to talk about. He follows me, practically jogging to keep up. Come on, just hear me out. It's not what you think. I turn around so fast he almost crashes into me, right there in the middle of the hotel lobby. Not what I think? I glared at him, my breath getting heavy. Look, it just happened, okay? We didn't plan. Something in me snaps. All that icy calm I'd been maintaining just evaporates. Before I even realize what's happening, my fist landed his face with a satisfying crunch. Vince stumbles backward, hand flying up to his bleeding nose, eyes wide with shock. That just happened, I say, shaking out my hand. Guess neither of us planned it. Security is already moving toward us, but I just step into the elevator. As the doors close, I see Vince still standing there in the middle of a fancy NYC hotel lobby, blood dripping between his fingers, looking pathetic. It wasn't my proudest moment, but damn if it didn't feel good. Sometimes the high road has a little detour through the Big Apple. Meanwhile, the texts from Tati keep coming, ranging from rage-filled accusations to desperate declarations of love. I didn't respond to any of them. I blocked her number, but she created new email addresses, new social media accounts, trying to reach me. Eventually, they slow to a trickle. At the same day, I got a brief text from her father saying, "She's with us now in Chicago. I apologize for my daughter's behavior and the pain she's caused. If you've left anything at her apartment that you want, please let me know and I'll make arrangements." I thank him, but say I have everything I need. And that was that. 4 years of my life, gone in a weekend. Now, most stories would end there. Guy discovers cheating, guy leaves, life goes on. But that's not quite how it played out. See, I'm not the type for dramatic confrontations or emotional outbursts. I'm a software developer. I like systems, patterns, logical consequences. And while I had zero interest in getting back at Tati in any petty way, I did believe in karma. Or more accurately, I believed in helping karma along a bit. After leaving NYC, I didn't go back to Boston right away. Couldn't face the apartment Vince and I had shared. Instead, I crashed with my brother in Chicago for a few weeks while I figured out my next steps. During that time, I went through all our financial records and created a detailed spreadsheet documenting every penny I'd given Tati over the years. Rent, tuition supplements, groceries, utilities, gifts, everything. It came to just over $87,000 over 4 years. I didn't do this to try to get the money back. I did it to see in black and white exactly what I'd invested in someone who saw me as nothing but an ATM and emotional support animal. Then I created a second spreadsheet. Every lie I could remember, every manipulation, every gaslighting moment, dates, times, exact quotes when I could recall them. This wasn't for her or anyone else. It was for me. A reminder of what I'd ignored and wouldn't ignore again. I sent the financial spreadsheet to both Tati's parents with a simple note. No need to repay. Consider this the cost of an expensive life lesson. Her father called me after receiving it. He was clearly embarrassed and apologetic. He offered to pay me back, but I declined. Instead, I suggested he use that money for Tati's treatment. She needs help more than I need the money, I told him. And I meant it. Thomas was quiet for a moment. You're a better man than most, Jared. Not really, I said. Just done being a doormat. As for Vince, I didn't have to do anything directly. Karma hit him all on its own, exactly how I expected. Turns out the medical device company he was training with has a strict morality clause in their contracts. When they somehow discovered he'd been having an affair with a med student who could potentially be prescribing their devices someday, wonder how they found out? They terminated him immediately. Industry's small. Last I heard, he's having trouble finding similar work. He had to move back to his parents' place in Ohio. His LinkedIn profile now lists him as a self-employed consultant, which we all know is code for unemployed and desperate. Bonnie actually reached out to apologize for her role in everything, said she felt terrible for covering for Tati, and had no idea how serious the deception was. Claimed Tati had told her we were on a break, and that I knew about Vince but was in denial. I understand you were caught in the middle, I told her, but I can't have people like that in my life anymore. She seemed to get it. The real revenge, though? It's been 6 months, and I've completely rebuilt my life. I got a promotion at work and relocated to our Seattle office. Fresh start, new city, new apartment, with an actual view of water instead of a brick wall. I bought a motorcycle with the money I was saving for our wedding. Nothing clears your head like the open road and the constant awareness that one wrong move could delete you from existence. I'm dating again, casually, taking it slow. Current girl knows the full story and respects my boundaries. She's in tech too, so we actually have shit to talk about beyond her day-to-day drama. Most importantly, I've gained a clarity I never had before. I know my worth now. I know what I'm willing to accept and what I'm not. And I refuse to be anyone's safety net or doormat ever again. Tati still tries to contact me sometimes from new numbers or emails. I never respond. Her parents update me occasionally. She's still in treatment, still working through her issues. I wish her well, but from the other side of the country. Oh, and remember my car? That Audi A4 they were using for their little love nest on wheels? Sold it. Couldn't stand to drive it knowing what had happened in there. Used the money as a down payment on a house outside Seattle. Every mortgage payment feels like a middle finger to my past. And yeah, life isn't a movie. There's no dramatic music when you discover betrayal. No perfect witty line when you walk away. Just a quiet decision that you deserve better, and the courage to act on it. The way I see it, I didn't lose 4 years with Tati. I saved myself from wasting 40 more. And that, I believe, is the best revenge there is.